Greetings, Facebook, and everybody who's watching this video that I put together. Um, I get to understand over the years that the health message is connected with is connected to our health, to our well-being, but most importantly, the health message that we have as Seventh-day Adventists is required for soul salvation. I never used to understand that because I was never a Seventh-day Adventist. I just started to study the health message and spirit of prophecy and so on after the COVID-19 scamdemic. You know, the pandemic. I call it a scamdemic and a plandemic because it was not a pandemic. It was a plan to scam people. And by now, we all should have known this by now because let's put aside all hypocrisy and pretense. There was no such thing as a real pandemic that was killing people. It was all a plan and a scam. Now, after studying and paying attention to the health message, I was introduced to the health message by someone, and out of curiosity, because I didn't know what it was, I started to study it, and I couldn't understand it because certain things in there seemed to me as if it was far fetched. And you know, Ellen G. White, which a lot of people, 99% of the world, probably you can say, labeled her as being a false prophet. But I'm a person. I have to judge someone for myself. I don't judge people based on the judgment of other people. I have to see for myself before I can, come into, jump into any conclusion saying, okay, this and that. No, I have to try you myself to understand what is happening by myself. All right, people. So, what am I saying really? Basically, what I'm really saying is this: I have been looking at the health message, and everything that she says in spirit of prophecy in the health message is absolutely true. And I would like to share something with you guys today. Do you realize a lot of people are dying of cancer and you know inflammatory diseases and other health issues, but basically blood diseases. People are dying of these things left, right, and center. And what a lot of people fail to understand, the reason why a large of the population is being sick is because of the type of food that we eat. And a lot of people don't know that, but it has to deal with mostly meat eating. All right. Now, I am on this book here. It's called Counsels on Health and Food. All right. And this one called Counsels on Health and Diet. You can go and research it. No, no, no. Most of our diseases are caused by flesh eating, and a lot of people will say, "Oh no, that is not true. That is not true." But cancer is caused by flesh eating, by eating meat, because we were not designed to eat meat in the first place. In the first place, to begin with, and that is what a lot of people do not want to accept. They do not want to accept that. They will say that, oh, but God allowed us to eat meat and God said that meat can be eaten. Yes, He said that. But the purpose for that is because after the flood, there were hardly anything to eat. So God had to make provision. So He allowed Noah to eat meat. But if you don't have spirit of prophecy, you think that you're supposed to continue. But according to spirit of prophecy, they were supposed to stop eating meat and go back to the vegetarian diet. But because of disobedience, the 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 generations of Noah that were disobedient to God, because of their disobedience, they decided they will continue to eat meat and kill the animals. Now, long story short, meat shortens life. And there was a part in Spirit of Prophecy I was reading that God gave the human race meat to shorten the lifespan because they were so wicked. Now, my family and I, we have been visiting, the sick on the 7 day Sabbath. And we go to hospice and the other institutions like Fines Institute and hospice. And when I go to hospice, there are people dying there of stage 4 cancer and other diseases as well. But mostly when people have cancer, that is when they go to hospice, and basically is like, according to the system, when you go there it is a death sentence, and they basically believe that anyone that goes there, there's a 99% chance they're going to die. So it's a place when you're ready to dead, then they'll send you there for going dead. But those patients, they don't have to die. The thing is that cancer can be reversed, but some of the nurses and the doctors probably don't know that. I'm not condemning them, but one thing I would like to say is that the food that they're giving them there are killing them faster. Because when you have cancer, you have to remove meat, fatty food out of your diet. You don't Meat is not an option. Do not eat meat, period. Now, I've been there every Sabbath, you know, praying for people, praying with them, and singing hymns and so on, visiting them. Some of them don't really have much people that visit them on a regular. So we go there every Sabbath and visit them. And one thing that I noticed, few Sabbaths, few weeks ago, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I'm correct, and there was an elderly there, and he had stage 4 cancer. And the next week that we went back, he was dying. And before that, he was drinking juice, Ribena box juice. And when you have cancer, you don't drink these things, because these things, they all have chemicals and preservatives that leads to more cancer. So for example, there is what you call it? There is a sweetener called aspartame. Go and do the research. I didn't know about it. Well, someone told me that, and I went and I did the research. Aspartame is a sweetener that is 200 times sweeter than sugar, than real sugar. But it is not real sugar, it is synthetic sugar. All right? So they use it in the industry, the food industries, as a sweetener because it is more profitable than actual sugar, and it stretches way further than actual sugar because of the fact that it is 200 times stronger and sweeter than sugar. So they have to use less. Well, it is required for less to be used, and less stretches a longer way than to actually use real sugar, because real sugar would be more expensive for the industries out there. So you see, the thing is, now I decided to go and do the research on aspartame. What are the side effects? You get blurry vision, it blinds you. Liver disease, it destroys your liver, it destroys your bladder, it destroys your heart, it leads to heart attack, and it gives cancer over a period of time. And if you pay attention and you do the research and look for the products that contain aspartame, you will be surprised that 99% of the products that we consume contains aspartame. Sodas, all sodas, soft drinks, juices, any juice that comes from a manufacturer contain aspartame because they don't use sugar. Box juices, they don't use sugar to sweeten them, they use aspartame to sweeten them as a sweetener. Any cereal that comes already sweetened. Okay, you ever buy those cereals and you see those white powder sprinkled on them, and it is sweet, 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 sweeter than sugar. You don't need to put sugar. You just put the milk, and it is so sweet. You're wondering, wow, you have to dilute it. It is not real sugar. It is aspartame, which is a cancer causing agent, which is extremely carcinogenic to the body. It is called aspartame. Go and do the research. But what the industry has been doing is that they hide the name under other names. I can't remember the other names that they use to hide it. So instead of using the word aspartame, they use another name, or they will use like artificial sweetener or sucrose and other brand names. But it's the same chemical that is causing cancer. Now, these are the foods that I see people who have cancer. They are eating this food and their family members are feeding them this food. No, I am not condemning. Maybe they don't know because I didn't know better. But it's after doing the research I get to understand, wow, It is the food that we eat, the processed food. Listen to me. Every single food that is processed causes cancer. It doesn't matter how much they label it as healthy for you. Listen to me. It is a false advertisement. They will advertise anything that kills you as being healthy for you to eat. It is not healthy because when you break down the ingredients that they put in these things, they are not healthy for your health. No, what I'm saying is that no, people are dying at hospice, and those are the places, and in the homes all over the world. Stop feeding cancer patient, diabetic patient these food. If you are a cancer person or diabetic person, do not consume no processed food. Anything that comes from the supermarket that is on the shelf, that is inside a can or a box, it doesn't matter how healthy you think it is, as long as it goes through a procedure of being packaged, processed bags, do not consume it. Remove it out of your diet immediately because you are not going to get better. Now, sad to say that the guy passed away. The elderly man, he passed away. And he was consuming a lot of ribena juices, and the food that they give them at these institutions are killing them as well. Now let's get straight to the point here. I am in Councils of Health and Food, Councils of Health and Diet, I think this one is, chapter 23. It says here, physical result of a flesh diet increase liability to disease and sudden death. Let's read it. The liability to take disease is increased tenfold by meat eating. Now you can find that in Testimony for the Church. This one here says, worldly physicians cannot account for the rapid increase of disease among the human family, but we know that much of this suffering is caused by the eating of dead flesh. And that is so true, but people will say, no, that is not true. Ellen White is a false prophet. She is not a false prophet. Now let's go to the next one. The animals are diseased, and by partaking of their flesh, we plant the seeds of disease in our own tissue and blood. Then, when exposed to the changes in a malarious atmosphere, these are more sensibly felt. Also, when we are exposed to prevailing epidemics and contagious diseases, the system is not in the condition to resist the disease. Extracts from unpublished testimonies in regard to flesh foods. I agree with that. All right. So let's go to the next one here. It says here, you have flesh, but it is not good material. You are worse off for this amount of flesh. If you would each come down to a more spare diet, which would take from you 25 or 30 pounds of your gross flesh, you should be much less liable to disease. The eating of flesh meat has made a poor quality of blood and flesh. Your system are in a state of inflammation, prepared to take on disease. You are liable to acute attacks of disease and to sudden death because you do not possess the strength of constitution to rally and resist disease. There will come a time when the strength and health you have flattered yourself you possess will prove to be weakness. Testimonies for the church. That is so true. Now the part that she says you will take 25 or 30 pound, that is true. Now hold on, let me highlight it for you guys. I'm gonna highlight this. This is true. I just highlight it in yellow. If you would each come down to a more spare diet, which would take from you 25 or 30 pounds of your gross flesh, you should be much less liable to disease. When I was eating meat, right, my face full up and I was thick. Now, if you see me now, you think I AIDS, I have. I wonder, Bass, how come me lose so much weight? When I remove meat out of my diet completely, I lost so much pound, right? That me think that a cancer I have. I got so skinny. Nah lie people, I got so skinny that people actually wonder if I AIDS I have bass. But guess what? I don't catch cold so easily anymore. I don't get sick that easily anymore. I used to drink a lot of milk, animal milk. And if I go outside and like a rain catch me, I start cough. I catch cold. Now look, I could tap in the drizzle rain 24/7. Because of the fact that I don't consume no animal products, I don't get sick so easily. It is hard for me to catch sick in terms of like catching cold, flu, and these things. I don't get these things that easily anymore. And I put the health diet to the test. The health diet to the test, and I get to understand that the woman is true. What she wrote, nothing that she wrote was false. God gave her these counsels. And when I go into the Bible, I see the truth in the Bible. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 29 to 30, the health message. No meat. Daniel chapter 1, Daniel chapter 1, the whole chapter 1 of the book of Daniel, read it. No meat. Daniel did not partake in the king's meat or wine. He asked to eat pulse and drink only water. For those of you who don't know what pulse is pulse food like beans, greens, vegetable, and so on. Those are what you call pulse food. He did not eat meat. Now let's go here. This says diseased blood. It says here, I have felt urged by the Spirit of God to set before several the fact that their suffering and ill health was caused by a disregard of the light given them upon health reform. I have shown them that their meat diet, which was supposed to be essential, was not necessary, and that as they were composed of what they ate, brain, bone, and muscle were in an unwholesome condition, because they lived on the flesh of dead animals, that their blood was being corrupted by this improper diet, that the flesh which they ate was diseased, and their entire system was becoming gross and corrupted. All right. This one he says here, flesh meat will depreciate the blood. Cook meat with spices and eat it with rich cakes and pies, and you have a bad quality of blood. The system is too heavily taxed in disposing of this kind of food. The mince pies and the pickles, which should never find a place in any human stomach, will give a miserable quality of blood. And a poor quality of food cooked in an improper manner and insufficient in quantity cannot make good blood. She says here further here, flesh meat and rich food and an impoverished diet will produce the same result. Over and over again, Sister White warns us. When it comes to our health, we have to eat properly and healthy. We have to go back to the Garden of Eden when it was just fruits and vegetables and greens. Green herbs. No meat was there in the Garden of Eden. Now let's continue here. It says here, from the light God has given me, the prevalence of cancer and tumors is largely due to gross living on dead flesh. Let me highlight this. I'm gonna put this in a different color. Let's put it in green. Now she says this is the light that God has given her. And she is not lying. People will say that, oh, she's a false prophetess and this and that. But when you go in the Bible, you see that the best diet God gave to his children over and over again, it was not flesh diet. All right. This one says here, the one that is highlighted in yellow. Cancers, tumors, and all inflammatory diseases are largely caused by meat eating. Now, I don't want to continue read and read and read and read and read everything because there's a lot. But just want to touch base with you guys here. It says here, the title here, Cancer, Tuberculosis, Tumors. The meat diet is the serious question. Shall human beings live on the flesh of dead animals? The answer, from the light that God has given, is no. Decidedly no. This is what God showed her. God took her in vision, gave her the light to spread out there to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And the Seventh-day Adventist Church is responsible to spread that light out there to the Gentiles who don't know any better. Brothers and sisters, do you know who is violating the health laws more than anyone else? Seventh-day Adventists. You know how much Seventh-day Adventists that I know that is rejecting or who have rejected the health message, you cannot make it into God's kingdom if you continue to reject the health message, because the health message is tied directly to commandment number 6, thou shalt not kill. And they don't teach people these things in church. Woe be unto you, Seventh-day Adventists, for you have so much light and you keep it to yourself. I can't keep this to myself, I have to share it out there with the people, them man. Man no matter get cuss off, but some people eventually they will begin to question certain things and then they will say, hey, the health message is for real, you know. Let me highlight this. I'm gonna use a different color to highlight this. All right, let's go. Let's read further. It says here, health reform institutions should educate on this question. Physicians who claim to understand the human organism ought not to encourage their patients to subsist on the flesh of dead animals. They should point out the increase of disease in the animal kingdom. And let this be a message for you guys who work at those health institutions like hospice and Fines Institute taking care of ill patients. You have to remove meat out of their diet, or else those people are just going to die left, right, and center. It doesn't matter what you do to help save them. The moment you are feeding them the very same food that is causing the disease in the first place, they are not going to get any better. Let's continue here. It says here, the testimony of examiners is that very few animals are free from disease, and that the practice of eating largely of meat is contracting diseases of all kinds: cancers, tumors, scrofula, tuberculosis, and numbers of other like infections. And you can find that in manuscript, the manuscript release, chapter 3, 1897. Those who use flesh foods little know what they are eating. Often, if they could see the animals when living and know the quality of the meat they eat, they would turn from it with loathing. People are continually eating flesh that is filled with tuberculosis and cancerous germs. Tuberculosis, cancer, and other fatal diseases are thus communicated. Now, you can read more on this whole entire chapter in the book, The Ministry of Healing, which I've been reading that book a lot, boy, and trust me, that opened my eyes so much. It's not funny. It says here, the tables of many professed Christians, women, are daily set with a variety of dishes which irritate the stomach and produce a feverish condition of the system. That is true. Flesh meat constitute the principal article of food upon the tables of some families, until the blood is filled with cancerous and scrofulous humors. Their bodies are composed of what they eat. But when suffering and disease come upon them, it is considered an affliction of providence. Testimonies for the church. People, this is for us Seventh-day Adventists. And I'm going to leave it right here. I have more to read for you guys, but I'm going to leave this right here, people. Now, what am I trying to say? All I'm saying is that we need to remove meat out of our diet. Now, can somebody please share this video so that this video reach the proper people? Because I'm tired of seeing people dying left, right, and center at hospice, and people are dying in their homes. And what hurts me the most is that we have so much truth, but a lot of people don't know that. So, people, if you have any family members who's suffering from diabetes, blood diseases, cancer, because cancer is a blood disease, and also based on the research that I've been doing, parasite cause cancer as well. And the kind of food that we eat, any food that we eat that is acidic, it leads to cancer, tuberculosis, and other sicknesses. And if you guys look on the nutrition chart list, where you have the pH, like the alkaline and the acidic food, if you pay attention to the alkaline food, you will see that the vegetations, the green herbs, they're all alkaline, and the fruits and the vegetables, not the one that they process. I'm talking about the one that are organically grown, freshly picked by your hands, not by machines and go through processes. No, the natural ones. Like you have a farm and you plant your food, you don't use no chemical, no pesticide, and then when the time comes, you just take your hand and just pick your fruit and you eat. That's what you call natural food. Now, if you look at the chart that says acidic, you are going to see something very important. And what you're going to see is that you're going to see on the acidic part meat, animal milk, sodas, processed food, anything that is processed, canned or bagged, and being sold in the supermarket. They all become acidic because of the chemicals and the stuff that they put in them. Animal milk is acidic. Meat, any sort of flesh, even it doesn't matter what kind of flesh it is, any sort of flesh is acidic. Every meat based diet is automatically acidic. Don't you touch no meat diet. Now remember what we've read earlier. When you remove meat completely out of your diet, your body is going to decrease in size. You are going to lose 20 to 30 pounds. That is a lot of pound. That is a lot of weight. But what people don't understand that those weight, they are known as dead weight, unhealthy weight. You understand? So when you lose these fats, they are unhealthy fats that your body was storing up. That is what was leading to diabetes and high blood pressure and these things. Remove them and you feel better. Yes, you're gonna get skinny, boy. You're gonna look like you have AIDS. When people see you, so people are gonna run from you. Still, don't bother with them. Your health comes first. And make sure you detox and make sure you eat healthy. It was a pleasure sharing this message with you guys. See you guys until next time.